Good evening, everybody. It is Sunday, the 9th of August, and whoops, here we go. We're back on. We're going to do lecture 17 tonight, and this lecture is a kind of a short one. It is about the um, Larry Summers article on secular stagnation that is found in your portfolio of readings for this course under course documents. And it's one of those readings that it would be required in the preparation of for the final examination. Let's see if get the camera straight here. Now, the secular stagnation is an old term, and with many people, it doesn't have a very precise meaning. But Summers does a pretty good job. He says there's a difficulty in maintaining sufficient demand to permit normal levels of output. And so this article was written after the Great Recession, and things were in boom right before the Great Recession. That is up to 2006. From roughly 2003, the economy was recovering nicely from the bursting of the dot-com bubble, and it was a very severe downturn there. But and then we get the Great Recession of 2007, 2009, and everyone, the Great Recession was extremely severe. It's an example of what I will call the second worst cataclysm or catastrophe, and I should say economic cataclysm or economic catastrophe, which can befall mankind. A financial crisis is extremely severe and threatens our very civilization, because the characteristic feature of a financial crisis is the destruction or near destruction of the finance sector. That is to say, of the destruction or near destruction of money and capital markets of this world. And if you have a full destruction, of course, you have people who once had access to the money and capital markets of this world, and not having it anymore. We would, if you will, if there was a full destruction that occurred in 2007, 2009, then we would have regressed towards the state of affairs of third world countries. The population there, by and large, does not have access to the money and capital markets. But of course, in the United States and in other parts of the developed world, people have access to the money and capital markets. And most especially, if you want a car loan, you can easily get one. If you want to finance the purchase of a house or build a house, you can get a loan there. And then the third type of financing would, and very important to many of you, would be a business loan. If you want to start your own business or expand your own business, then the capital markets is one way to go. There's such a thing as self-financing too, and you can be creative and think of some other hybrids, if you will. But anyway, we had in 2007, 2009, a very severe downturn of business activity, and it threatened the financial system here in the States, and it would have had tremendous personal consequences if the finance sector had been destroyed. Characteristic feature of all busts, including, well, not so much the financial crisis, because the destruction or near destruction is the characteristic feature, but there was in the Great Recession and characteristic of other types of downturns in business activity, the ones we got used to prior, well, a little bit after World War II and right up to the 20th century. The characteristic feature of those busts was the degree of capital consumption. In other words, in the boom, we think of capital accumulation, and we like to talk about the boom, but sometimes we don't give the bust its due, and the characteristic feature of all busts, except the financial sector, in the financial crisis, the characteristic feature is capital consumption, big time capital consumption. And, I've done an estimate of roughly, on average, 8% of the capital of a country, if you will, of the amount of businesses, number and amount, is the amount that is consumed. So we have the present situation post Great Recession, in which Summers identifies it as secular stagnation, and he says it is the difficulty of maintaining, this is a definition, maintaining sufficient demand to permit normal levels of output. And additionally, we want to say that, and he says it, there is a high propensity to save and too low of a propensity to consume, a low propensity to invest, despite extremely low interest rates, and what else? We have and low inflation. So what we're really concerned with here is that Keynesian cross diagram. You have full employment output, and then you have for a small future time period an increase in the ability to produce output. The infrastructure gets bigger. There's growth in that, growth in productivity, if you will, and the projected output in this short period of time in which you have capital accumulation and great investment, it would give you a certain level of output, but unfortunately, according to Summers, the output level is, called a normal output level, if you will, is not being reached. There's insufficient demand to permit these so-called normal levels of output. So we want to take note of his article, and he is a Keynesian economist, and the Keynesian economists are somewhat dominant today. And he talks about supply side barriers to output, what are we going to say here? The supply potential has declined, according to Summers, relative to its pre-2007 level. And we want to say that there are various reasons for that, and it's given on page 2 of Summers' article. He talks about labor force participation, the past effect of economic weakness, and there he would be referring to the bursting of the dot-com bubble. We have labor force participation, and a few other things that you can take a look at there. So, and then on page 24, of the portfolio of readings. Let's see if I can bring it up right away. You have a editorial in the Financial Times of April 19th, 2015, really 6 years after the Great Recession hit its bottom. And their thesis is that you don't want to fail to learn this, what secular stagnation means and how we can go about getting out of the low growth, low productivity that characterizes the secular stagnation. What else do we have here? We want to take a look at interest rates in particular. They're low, and the idea here is that we want to seize advantage of rock bottom interest rates in the best way, really, to raise them. In other words, we want to increase investment demand, and the rate will go up. So you can read the editorial, and what I want to say is that let's get to the essence of Keynesian economics, the model. And what we have here is, well, we really have an analogy that I can make. It's the analogy, I will say, of a drunken sailor on a ship, and then on leave, shore leave. The sailor goes on shore leave. He has pent-up demand, if you will. He goes into a town and spends his the wages or income that he's received as a sailor. He goes on a drinking binge and has a wild night that he's experienced, and the military police eventually catch up with him. He's had too much to drink. He's done too much damage, if you will, and he's taken back to the ship and put in the brig. So he's consumed too much on shore, but when he was put in the brig, he saves too much and consumes too little, if you will. So in other words, Keynesian economics is saying that the typical person either spends too much, and his spending would result in a boom and inflation and all that. And then there are other times, and it changes on a dime, so to speak. He will consume too little and save too much. And in other words, he will hoard too much of his income or whatever is paid to him. And so that's the way we're viewed. And you know, if you study consumption theory, which we have not been able to get to, given all that has happened, but anyway, there's this, what I think is a very limited view. If you're going to say we spend too much and then save too little, and then just the reverse, save too much and spend too little, I think I got that all in there right. You have to explain what the factors are that lead to too much saving, too little consumption, or too little saving and too much consumption. And the Keynesian model is just content to say there's too much and too little, as it were. So this view is, I think, a kind of a primitive view. I guess it may have been true in the Great Depression, but it's not true in the current period. If you save too much and bring about a bust and a deflation, then what? You're hoarding too much, and there's an opportunity cost to you of holding on to money, hoarding money, when you could take that money and invest it in savings accounts and um, certificates of deposit and the like. So empirically, we do not establish in the modern world a behavior of the consumer as saving too much at a given point in time, and spending too little, and then on the dime changing uh, kind of on a whim, as it were, and spending too much and saving too little. It's we're really not drunken sailors. I think, and if you look at consumer expenditures, we tend to buy pretty much the same things. We buy cars, we buy TVs, we have air conditioning, um, and a whole bunch of other things. And the consumer behavior of individuals is pretty predictable. That is, what they will buy and how much they will buy. If we had a physical class, I'd be willing to bet that over let's say 90% of you have TVs in your bedrooms and all over the house. You have air conditioning. What else? If you don't live in New York City, then your typical family will have 2 cars, and all of this is pretty predictable. It's nothing new to say about the consumer. So anyway, we have the Great Recession really to be explained, and this is the question that Keynes and economists try to answer with the concept of secular stagnation. And then we have Tif Mian and Amir Sufi, who provide an explanation of the Great Recession. And so does Gillian Tett somewhat. The next reading we want to do, and we'll cover it tomorrow in a lecture, is the Minsky model of the business cycle. And I might tell you that I'm toying with sending you my new draft of my article that I sent to you some time ago, and it's in polished form, and I'm waiting for the editor to get back to me and tell me what changes to make, if any. So maybe on Tuesday I'll send it to you, maybe Wednesday. But hopefully you will enjoy reading it. The bust that we've had due to the coronavirus is nobody's fault, really. It's the virus's fault. And the coronavirus is a bust in itself. It explains the downturn in economic activity. But there was no boom that we can associate with the coronavirus bust. There was a boom up to mid-February of 2020, but that was due to the monetary policy actions of the Federal Reserve. And we have had easy money by and large for a 10-year period, especially after 2014. So everyone, take a look at the Secular Stagnation article by Larry Summers, and then look at that editorial on page 24 of the portfolio of readings. There's a discussion of the low interest rates, and that will be maybe of interest to you. So anyway, that's it for the lecture 17, is it? Yes, 17 on secular stagnation. So, you should prepare the article and prepare the editorial, look at the editorial in preparation for the final examination. Remember, the final will be due on August 15th, Saturday. We postponed it 2 days because of the electric outages. And the exam will appear, I think, sometime on the 13th. I'm not sure when right now. So tomorrow there will be a big lecture on the synopsis of Minsky's model of a financial crisis. I wrote it, and it's under course documents. Please read it. It's 7 or 8 pages. I forget the exact number. And then we're going to do the Mian and Sufi book review article written by Larry Summers again. He does a masterful job in summarizing the and criticizing positively and negatively the great book that Amir Sufi and Atif Mian wrote in 2014. They are professors at Chicago and Princeton, and there's some very important empirical work that they have done. Now, Minsky, we want to say, has the a full model of the business cycle in his head, and the press in 2007, 2008, and 2009 concentrated on the financial distress that we associate with the Great Recession. And there's a lot more. There's a boom period, and then there's the fourth phase as well. And well, we'll get to that tomorrow. So everyone, please read these articles that have been assigned to you. I will drop essay questions from them, and that will constitute your final examination. There will be a cumulative part to the final examination, and the cumulative part consists of essay questions 5, 6, and 7 that you faced in the midterm examination. Since you have a copy of the midterm examination, you can easily get those questions and start preparing answers to them. So that's all I have for tonight. I thank you for your attention. It's a short lecture, and it will appear on, well, I'll send an announcement out to you with the name of the lecture and also a hyperlink so that you can listen to the whatever amount of minutes we have taken tonight to discuss secular stagnation. Thank you very much, and I will do lecture 18 tomorrow.